Hi, and welcome to Via Gemella Art House Sophia's Choice Conversations with me, Sophia. Today we're going to talk a little bit about me, Sophia, and one of my favorite things. So the show is going to focus on art. We're in my art studio, food, and wine, some of my favorite wine. I want to tell you a little bit about me and who is Sophia. So, first of all, if you see me around and I don't speak to you, that's my twin. So I'm going to start with I'm a twin. I'm also a university professor in hospitality and tourism, graduate student coordinator for the University of the West Indies. That's one side of me. I'm also a justice of the peace. I'm a former athlete, yes, believe it or not, and I'm an artist. So this is what I want to talk to you about today, my art and my passion for art and when I started and the kinds of things that I like to do as far as art is concerned. So when did you get started, some would ask? And I started in 2015. I always wanted to be an artist, believe it or not. I also wanted to play the piano. Well, that never happened, but don't rule it out. But I started in 2015. A friend of mine, Dario, came and said, "You can do it, Sophia." And so I said, okay. And he gave me some tips on getting started, and I started, and the passion just grew and grew and grew. I did a lot of research on different genres of art and different kinds of things that I can do with art. And so every day after getting off from my main job, I would hustle home and get into some research regarding art. So I toyed around with a couple of the standard forms of art. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is called Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I like this sort of abstractness of this piece, but it's also a combination piece of fluid art and, you know, the regular drawing. I do a little bit of that, but my favorite genre is fluid or abstract art. And as you can see, I have just a little bit of my paintings with me today in studio. This one here is called the Nassau Grouper. I love the colors in this. The thing with fluid art is you can use a lot of colors and do a lot of shaping of the paint, the mixture. I work with acrylic paints, and you can get what you want. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but the finished product is so fantastic and it's so significant that you immediately fall in love with it. And so I work a lot with acrylic paints and different mediums and different media pieces. In the art where we call it a mixed media piece, when you work with sand, shells, anything really you can create an art piece with, and I've been able to do that. Now, what are some of my favorite things that I produce beside my fluid art? And if you go on my website, www.viagemellaarthouse.com, you would see all the different things that I've produced over the years. Some of the things that I obviously have for sale, and some of my pieces. For example, I work with covers, believe it or not. I mean, just anything. Every time I blink, I think of something different that I can add to my fluid art or add to the artwork. And that is the good thing about being an artist and being an eclectic artist, because you take all sorts of pieces, all sorts of material, and you produce this great work of art. And so I'm in love with art now. So Some of the signature things, though, that I have focused in and honed in a little bit more on over the years have been my coasters. For example, I take the raw material, which is this one is a wooden coaster. You can tell, and I do my fluid art on it. Sometimes I paint on it, depending on how I feel or whatever the order may be. Some of my clients have requested certain colors, and so you try to provide them with the colors that they want. So this is wooden, and so the raw material, unfortunately I don't have the raw material right here, but this is the finished product, and it is so beautiful. After I've painted or pouring is another concept in fluid art. I poured on this wooden surface. I would let that dry for a couple of days, 48 to 72 hours. And then I would put either varnish. I don't like to use varnish too much because I find the climate here is too hot, and so it remains sticky for a long time. So I use a product called resin. And resin, a tabletop resin, it has that hard, shiny finish that is conducive one for the temperature that we have in the Bahamas. Is almost 90 degrees today, and it just gives it a beautiful surface afterwards. So I work with wood as well as I work with ceramics. I started off working with ceramic tiles, and these are your everyday tiles that you can find at any hardware store. And again, you want to do your painting or your pouring over the tile. Make sure it's dried properly. It's very important that it's dried properly. And then you put your finish sealer, what it's called sealer in the art world. You put a sealant over it, and that is the resin, that the tabletop epoxy resin that I use. Now that product is very, very expensive, but it's worth it in the end for the kind of finish that you would get. And then, of course, at the back of it, you want to make sure again that it's finished off properly. So you would put your cork backing on it, and of course I label branding. We'll talk about branding in some shows ahead, but branding is extremely important when you are a small business person and you are trying to get your message out there. You want to produce, first of all, a quality product. You want to spare no expense in putting the best in your product, and then you always want to brand your product. And then I have some wooden boxes that I usually put the ceramic tiles in afterwards, and these make wonderful gift items that goes right in there like that. I have several colors of those that we can use. And then I also started recently working with glass. Now that is entirely a new product for me, the glass coasters. This is very, very delicate. This is the kind of product you would want to give to a special person for a special occasion or something. A nice glass coaster, finished off. Again, you can get it obviously in your favorite colors, and I just again finished it off nicely with a little bow, but just to show you what the glass coaster looks like. This is a round one. I also work with some square ones as well. And again, you want to finish it off nicely with the cork backing. All of these things can be purchased online. I have not been able to find the cork backing and so on locally, but Amazon, eh? And then you finish it off with your labels. Those are produced locally. You want to support where you can your local counterparts as well. So thank you, Mark from Davos, for producing these for me. But these are glass, you can hear. And again, they are sold in sets of 4. And the thing about fluid art is every style that you pour is a little different. If you can see, so you do not have, this is not a factory. So what you get is an eclectic array of different styling using the same colors. And so everyone is different, and that's the beauty of fluid art. So I also work with glass, and So the three products that I work with is glass, for my coasters, glass, wood, and ceramic. And just a beautiful finish at the end of the day. I recently produced something for a beautiful little cafe, Channing Noel, and she was very pleased with that product. So again, if you have um, a brand and you want to brand your products and you want to give a special gift, you absolutely, I can facilitate that for you. Recently also got into these little jewelry cases that you can, that I've painted in these beautiful colors, and you can store your jewelry and whatnot in them. Those are also available at via Gemella Art House. But one of the other things that I fell in love with producing is the LPs. Now, back in the day, now, I'm not going to date myself, but I could recall when we used to play the LPs. We didn't have CDs, we didn't have downloads and all of these fantastic things. We had a regular old LP and a record player and so on. And so a lot of these were lying around my mom's house. And so I said, that looks like a surface that I can pour on. And sure enough, and so I ended up grabbing a couple of them and producing clocks. So what would happen is you would have the empty record. Again, you would want to pour on, do some type of fluid art on the record. And this is another one that I poured completely on. So you have whatever the color scheme is. And then again, another local vendor assisted me with putting the timepieces in that I purchased again online. I couldn't find them anywhere locally in the quantities that I needed. So I purchased the timepieces. I have a gold, and depending on whatever the color is, I put that timepiece in. That's Sun and Times, the watch folk there. They did that for me. And then this is the final product, and honestly, this just really is the love of my life, the finished product. And this was framed by the Place for Art by Kim Smith, the artist, another artist supporting another artist, which is very, very good. And he finished it off for me in this shadow box. And so it's really very well done. And I am so in love with my own work because, you can, again, give these for gifts. These have been given for high-end clients, gifts for high-end clients who appreciate when records were being played. And you can literally still see the name on the record. This one is Pigmeat Markham, Tune Me In. I remember playing this as a child, and so now it's a record, it's a timepiece, and it's beautifully framed, and you can just hang it in your office or wherever. I know my sister has one in her office, and so this is very, very good. I love producing these because this is a time piece, and it's a vintage kind of piece that can be around forever. Time waits on no man. So that is the finished product, and you can get the matting any color. You can get you can request. I had some folk from San Salvador who requested a certain color for her clock, and I was able to produce that. And so those are the kinds of things that I produce with my art. So I am busy all the time. There's never a dull moment. When I come home after a very frustrating day at work, of course, work can get you frustrated. I head to my studio, and I built this studio with the intent of getting away from it all and being able to just sink myself into this new phase of my life. And so I'm very excited about art. And again, art comes in all kinds of formats and so on. And so the next show, we're going to focus on gardening, which is one of my favorite things as well, believe it or not. Another hobby of mine, gardening and cooking. Listen, as a grad student, I taught chefs how to cook. Now that was a little while ago, right? So I've had a love for cooking forever, and so part of the show is going to focus on food and preparation of very light dishes, some dishes, my favorite dishes, and of course, again, wine, my favorite wines. And so I'm excited. I'm happy that you're joining me on this journey, and you're going to see a number of artists that you would not have seen before. You're going to see a number of cooking dishes and light fare, and you're going to see, of course, my favorite wines. So join me on this journey on Sophia's Choice. Thank you so very much for watching, and see you next time.